G'day and welcome back to Torment Thursdays, where I take advantage of my partner being out to sit back, take a drink of a tasty alcoholic beverage, and play a bit more of the Torment Tides of Numenera beta. Last time we finally finished character creation, and we're on our way actually explore the reef. I don't know why these aren't in chronological order or anything, but at least one of them is broken, so we'll see how we go. Last time around, I found that my save was broken, which meant I had to record from the start of the game rather than from exactly where I was up to. But I skipped that, obviously, for the actual final version. Here we are in the reef. We're actually about to explore this building here once we actually get in and going. Yeah. Should be interesting. It was good to actually kind of explore the real world. Real being, in quotation marks, of course. Okay. There we go. Yep, everything's loaded. And that's saying speech. Can I actually speak to her? Or is that just... right, here. This is the Reef of Fallen Worlds, kid. It's a dangerous place at the best of times, and with you lighting up the skies, you fell? We should get out of here as soon as possible. Why were you looking at me when you said that? I wasn't. Don't be so paranoid. But when she wasn't looking, he raises his eye knowingly. What makes the reef so dangerous? The Numenera of the past are always dangerous, but there are other dangers too, some closer than others. Hate to think what Calisage might do to him if I weren't here. What are the Numenera? You want me to tell you? Huh. The Numenera are all around you, everything left over from the prior worlds. Sagas Cliffs thrives by trading artifacts from ancient civilization. Hells, you can't even scoop a handful of earth without finding drit from prior worlds mixed with it. Yeah, basically, the idea is there has been so much civilization that just things that don't biodegrade very well are just ground up and mixed with the dirt by natural processes. It's hard to tell what is processed and what's natural, if that even has a meaning anymore. Numenera is anything from the prior worlds, but we really mean the stuff of value to us. A lot of them are just oddities, fancy trinkets with little real use, but sometimes you'll get a cipher that lets you do something incredible. Artifacts are worth even more. A cipher will only do something once, but artifacts last a lot longer. They can burn out though at the most inconvenient times. Not that it's ever happened to me. Of course, we got no idea what most of this junk was originally intended for. In most cases, it doesn't really matter. Like, you might find what used to be a propulsion unit for a star chariot, but who the hell knows enough to build the rest of it? Better use it as a weapon or a power source. Bet we could remake the world if we knew a tenth of the secrets of the ancients. But most of these days, it's enough to survive. What's your story? I'll speak again when we're out here. I don't trust this tram reef any more than the company we keep. What do you think of her? A parasite disguised as a Skullock. Don't be surprised if she betrays you before the day's done. Actually, that'll be pretty slow for her. Can you tell me about your tats? They look almost alive. They're nothing. Call them a consolation if you must. Some call them by worse names. That's because I've had occasion to run afoul of these little snakes. He looks away. This line of questioning is clearly at an end. It's my gift and my curse. They remind me of it every day. Let's keep going, alright? I bet I could have a similar conversation with Calisage, but I want to go in here. So, screw that conversation business. I want to do something. I didn't get to look in here in the alpha. This metal door is thick, heavy, and unmarked by time. Double rows of circular bumps run horizontally and vertically across its surface. It's firmly sealed. Examine the door more carefully. The metal surface is infused with minuscule threads that are barely visible to the human eye. They only run in straight lines and right angles. They seem to converge at the circular bumps. Upon closer inspection, you'll notice that each of the bumps is unique. Some have flat faces. Others are actually many-sided polygons, but a few are marked by tiny apertures. Unfortunately, you don't see anything that resembles a knob, keyhole, or access device. You try touching both the flat planes of the door and the small bumps, but nothing happens. Let's knock. It's only polite. You knock lightly at first, then harder. The door makes no sound at all, nor does it shudder or yield. There's no one home, dear. Hasn't been for thousands of years. She peers at the door. One of my colleagues in the order once claimed she got inside, but I don't believe her. Yep, nothing. That's... And I can repeat that and it will give me the same spiel. Well, that's disappointing. Let's have a look. Alright, that's the collecting. So let's see. What do I have in terms of items? Nope. This is all kind of irrelevant. Defense modes and activated abilities. So, we'll chat with Callistige. Callistige, I don't know. They don't give me a pronunciation guide, so, you know. Watch your steps, child. This is not a place to walk lightly. There are dangers in the reef, both old and new. What kind of dangers? Myriad, we walk among the Numenera, detritus of fallen worlds and antediluvian wars. Not everything in the reef knows that its wars ended long ago. Yet the true dangers are contemporary. The reef holds the promise of treasure for the determined, but not always for the scrupulous. Why is the resonance chamber here? An astute question, my dear. The most likely answer is that your sire discovered something he could repurpose for his own designs. If you can seal a dome as well as he did, the reef is as good a place as any for experimentation. What's your story? Now is not the time, dear, nor is the reef a safe place for lengthy disquisition. Rest assured, when we reach the cliffs, there'll be plenty of time to swap tales. What do you think of Elegant? Her lips pucker like she's tasting something foul. He's useful. At least he was once, if that pompous lark nibbler, forgive my language there, wants one more fault with me, I expect my sisters will murder him in several realities. Cocks her head to one side. There goes one now. Who are all these echoes of you? They are me. We are part of each other, sisters across infinite realities. We share our experiences and power. What's that old saying? That experience brings wisdom? I must be the wisest person in Sega's Cliffs. The wisest across countless worlds. No, that's just gonna be get the hell out of here. And I think we've actually done everything we can. We've played around with that, we've played around with them. This is an intake of some description. This is like sunken architecture. I like how there's a whole mishmash of styles. Actually, no, we haven't played around with that. And what else? This on-cable extends from that spout, but at the point where it dips below the water, it's been snapped in half. Okay. Music's changed. Although this cube hovers in the air, you can feel the ground shudder with its vibrations. Cool. There's a shallow depression in the surface here. Like many others scattered around the construct, but unlike the others, energy still pulses across this one in random intervals. There's a loose lens at the center of the depression. You'd think you could redirect it somewhere useful, but it would be tricky to get in between the energy pulses. Let's go with redirect the energy. And yeah, let's use up some speed doing so. Success! With careful timing, it's easy to twist the lens into what's hopefully a more favorable position. The lens glows with warning of impending energy pulse. The field of energy extends outwards and finding a human body encases it in a mystical suit of armor. The energy keeps flowing until the body is entirely covered and the shallow depression becomes dark and dormant. I know that this is relevant because this is where we had a crisis in the alpha. And I'm pretty sure we'll have the crisis here. Now, I don't want to go into combat. This has been the central tenet of how I built this character. The goal here is to not have to fight anyone. So, that's what I'm going to do. As you step onto what looks like the back of the enormous construct, 4 strangers approach you. In the lead is a wiry man with parallel scars running from cheek to collarbone. On the left side of his face... yeah. He gives you a welcoming smile, pulling on grey gloves embedded with pulsing lights. He's about to say something to you when he notices Celestige. How? I thought you'd sworn off trolling the reef. Found anything tasty? His eyes travel up and down both you and Allegan. Odds and ends, Qorro. Nothing that would interest you, I'm sure. Her words are calm, but she's gone quite still. What's he doing here? He has something up his sleeve, I know it. Let's let him talk. Qorro curls his hands into a fist at his side. I was wondering, specifically, if you'd seen a falling star that had landed near here not long ago. I know nothing of the sort, dear Qorro. What about your friends? I know most of the draft that scavenges the reef these days. It's a rare pleasure to see a new face. So, I'm gonna go with... What are those gloves for? Unwelcome but unanticipated complications. He does not elaborate. He does so love his ambushes. Celestige whispers in your ear again, even though her mouth is closed and she's not looking at you. He didn't have the gloves where I knew him last, but I'd wager they're connected to devices in the area. Okay, let's go with... Where did this star land? Well, if I knew that, I wouldn't be reduced to harassing noble travelers. I never saw it, you see. My employee did, and I then thought, who's the most trustworthy team I can send at a moment's notice? Luckily, they were on another assignment. We were interested and weren't too drunk yet, so... Let's go with... I fell from the sky. There was no star. I thought so, and to reward your honesty, I shall be honest in turn. You have 2 choices here, both of them dreadful. First option, you surrender to us and we convey you to my employer for, well, experimentation and dissection. Frankly, it's not pretty. There it is. Second option, we kill you and the old man, try not to kill Celestige, and bring your body back to our employers anyway. Apologies, sweetness. Allegan whirls on Celestige, his face tight with fury. You told him we were here, didn't you? You couldn't resist selling me out one more time. Are you really so paranoid? Darling, take your things and go home. Otherwise we'll have to rip you to pieces, and the world is already so untidy. Fine, I surrender. What in the world are you doing? We can defeat them. There's no wrong, kid. Why are you doing this? Don't want anyone risking my life for me. Let's see if that works. You made the right choice. Now suppose we could bind your arms, but probably safest this way. Before you can react, he slams his elbow into your face. You see a blinding light, then darkness. Gain 25 XP. So we avoided that fight. I don't know, and evidently it isn't at least instantly fatal. So that's neat, and everything. You float beneath a nauseous tide of darkness. Indistinct sounds drift by you like shining fish. Slowly you rise towards consciousness, and the sounds string themselves together into words. A woman's voice, arch and scornful. Do you have any idea who this is? Who you've hauled through the street like a sack of grain? Qorro, look at the tattoo for pity's sake. Does it mean nothing to you? You'll be awake soon, Salamari. And I promise, and I swear to you I had no idea. Of course you didn't. Reaching the most obvious conclusion requires at least some degree of intelligence. I asked you to retrieve the falling star, whatever it was, not assault a stranger, and especially not one who happened to be the changing god. Yeah. Qorro recoils with a muttered curse as you rise, grimacing and unsteady. Come now, Adan, Salamari says. Do shake it off. I don't believe for a second you're actually feeling your age. You struggle to focus on Salamari. Her arms are folded and she is distinctly unamused. I suppose some apologies are in order. I'll go first. If I'd known you were the falling star, I would have given Qorro very different instructions. Now it's your turn. I haven't seen you in 10 years. 10 years. I cannot begin to imagine what your excuses might be. Our last night together was so incredible. What could have possibly driven him off? If you want an apology from me, you'll be waiting a long time. Salamari shakes her head. Well, at least my memory of your temperament is accurate. Despite the name, you never change, do you? You left me in the middle of the night without a word of thanks. After I introduced you to the Order of Truth, connected you to my contacts at the Oasis, helped you with your research. She settles her hands on her hips, a lone finger tapping her impatient. What I'm saying is I have a problem, Adan, and you are going to help me with it. You owe me that much. I'll think it over. Do that, and tell me when the answer is yes. What have you been doing while I was away? Much of the same. Advancing my research, working on one book or the other, handling tasks for the city when they arrive. The time has flown past, frankly. Still laboring under lesser minds, dear? I've never understood how you put up with it. Just too smart for the Order. What disturbs me is that she knows it and yet stays. It's quite simple. They pay. Helps a great deal. Will you be staying with us longer for this time? Give her body so completely. What does she know? What's she really after? Scan thoughts is so useful. Oh man, there's no way I'm not taking that. I think not. Busy times ahead, I'm afraid. Let's talk about that favor you want. She draws your attention to a map of the reef of fallen worlds on her workstation and taps a gilded ornate structure not far from the dome. Oh, the thing we wanted to get into, I guess. This is the anechoic lazaret. It's been hopelessly sealed since the dawn of the Ninth World, until I managed to get into it a week or two. It was quite simple once you figured out the trick. I've been slipping in and out most nights, investigating the technology within, taking notes. Then more recently, discovered the structure was sealed again. Maybe you tripped an ancient security measure. No, I would not make such a careless mistake. I believe someone tramped inside with no regard for the dangers and managed to trigger a failsafe that resealed the structure. I need someone to reopen the lazaret and handle whatever nonsense the trespassers have stirred up in their wake. Why not send Qorro? I suppose I could do that. If I wanted him dead by sundown and the entire structure looted by strangers or aflame. Or I could hire someone competent. Qorro sags. Poor Qorro. He thought he was doing the right thing. Besides, I can reopen the structure. The concern is what's waiting for me inside. I want you to deal with whatever has gone wrong, so I can resume my work. Needless to say, I would prefer the structure in an undamaged state, as I left it. Well, there it is. Will you help? Yeah, sure. Excellent, she says briskly, but relief flashes across her face. She hands you a metallic stalk with flower-like ridges along its edge and a mechanical eye on one end. This, as you likely know, is the Eye of Mlox. And how I originally accessed the structure. In fact, the lazaret recognizes this organ as an authorized user node. User. Implies its builders were a machine civilization that existed before the advent of the Ninth World. Well, on your way, do watch your step in the reef. It can be quite dangerous. Please, Salamari, give me another chance. I can handle this. I have to earn her back. Her respect. I mean, right, her respect. Let him try, Salamari. Why not? He shoots you a mistrustful glance, but otherwise continues pretending you don't exist. He looks between the two of you. Salamari considers you both and sorts through a work table and picking up another one of the eyes. You're welcome to try, Qorro. She says, and she hands over the eye. He holds on to it, and when he tries to take it, this is your last chance. If you come back empty-handed, you better be dead as well. Trembling, Qorro pockets the eye and leaves, downcast. I'll prove myself to her. Then she'll see me as more than just a mercenary. He's going to fail, of course. That's what he does best. I want to ask her more, but I also don't want to tip my hand. Perhaps I'll see you again. This was not how I pictured you arriving at the Order of Truth. To be clear, I had no part in Qorro's ambush, but I did prevail upon him to allow me to accompany you here. Now you've come, you might as well take full advantage of the situation. Avail yourself of the knowledge here. Alagorn is not with us. He would not sully his precious mind stepping within these walls. He has gone off to his workshop in the underbelly. I suggest you let him rot there. The words we spoke as we parted were unkind. His accusal of betrayal was a final pin atop an overloaded bridge, so you were, in a sense, the catalyst of our change. And here we are, free of his gloom and mistrust. Come. The world lies open before us. Since sarcophagus could hold a human, original colors worn away, light shines his... Okay. Let's just wander around first, before we talk to anyone. Look at things, books piled haphazardly. Ooh, sweet. Dozen areas of inquiry, sure. Meaning of the glow screens, completely meaningless to you. Ancient tech, predating Order of the Truth, yep. A globe and trajectory that a ship could follow in the void between worlds. So someone's work desk. Ecology of biomechanical hybrids open to a sparse entry on the enigmatic Nyxthemeron. This desk is cluttered with scrawled notes, piles of paper and worn books. The owner was either extremely disorganized or left in a hurry. Let's have a look. You rustle through the mess of documents and notes. Most of them discuss the buildings and architecture of prior worlds that filled with drawings and descriptions of bizarre structures uncovered by scholars and explorers. The owner of this desk seems to have been particularly interested in doors, door frames, and archways. He has drawn circles around all such things, but his scrawled comments are never more revealing than similar, not a match. Could there be a connection here? Again, you scan the books and documents, don't find anything new. You notice a few letters and personal correspondence, but they seem to be written in code, or perhaps in a foreign script that isn't familiar to you. Leisurely, yep, that seems pleasant. Let's have a look at this machine. Without talking to anyone, of course. The machine is a chaotic assemblage of metal tanks and tubing. A work table mounted with spare parts stands beside it, and is connected by wires to an oddly familiar sarcophagus and other devices. Let's have a look at the machine. As it turns out, there's very little to examine. Every access point to the machine has been carefully sealed. Some of the hatches and keyholes are worn with use and likely accessed by the Order when they perform maintenance on the machine. Others are gleaming, ornate locks with twisted keyholes unmarred by scratches and nicks of careless everyday use. You run your hand across the surface and feel the ghost of another person's hand doing the same. Let's try and work out why it looks familiar. Let's just use some of our intellect pool to do it. Success! The memory opens like a gaping wound and closes around you. Hot wind pulls at your robe, jagged grit claws at your eyes. Squinting through the storm, you see the machine half buried in the sand. Curiously, you wedge open a panel inside is a sphere, sparkling like a jewel but soft to the life drains from you into the orb like blood from a wound. The machine is stealing your life, growling you to return the favor, ripping the sphere from the machine and regarding it with cold eyes. Memory of it releases abruptly, leaving you panting in front of the machine. That's not the ruined monstrosity one of your predecessors discovered in the Archipelagian ruins. You know, however, the orb is sealed somewhere in this device. Pick through the spare parts. There aren't many and there are no duplicates. They're parts of the machine, sure. Let's talk to Min. This priest is tall, thin, and dressed only in black. Narrow slashes of oil decorate its unlined skin-like letters in an unknown tongue. His eyes are harried but alive with intelligent humor. They land on you with a tiny flicker of recognition. Then his gaze moves from you to your companion. Hello, Callistage. Here to work or just to visit? With the husk? I hope this isn't a long-term visit. Simply passing through, Min, darling. Don't bother setting an extra place for me at the dinner table. With the same slight smile, Min turns his full attention to you. Good, good. There's something about her I found unnerving. I recognize you. Been 10 years? Don't think we ever spoke. I think you were the one visiting Salamari all the time. Worked on some sort of organic machine technology. That's right. Huh, welcome back. What brings you to the Order of Truth? It looks like he's lying, but why? More importantly, how? I know it's him. Can you tell me about your work? That's a big question. Even on the best days, I specialize in mechanical Numenera, intelligent or not. I haven't had much time for research since I started managing our branch of the Order. Can I ask you some questions about that? I'd be incredibly grateful if you did. Every other conversation I have revolves around how I'm ruining the Order, I'm not doing enough to save it. Please ask me about wires and blinking lights. What's the machine behind you? It makes levies, guardians of Sagus. Our records say that Divakal found a similar device in the ruins of Archipelagia, far to the north. He convinced the city that the local version, a modified one, would be of use. In order to become a citizen, everyone in Sagus, even the ones born here, gives a year of lives to that machine. It uses that borrowed time to create a levy. What if someone has only a year to live? They die the second they entered it? No, they never die in the machine. But it catches up with them a few days later. Sometimes I think the machine actually saves them, prevents them meeting whatever fate was in store, but not always. At any rate, the levies created by the machine are nearly identical. In the last year, and after that, they return to the machine and dissolve into grey gunk. Incredibly unpleasant to watch, and they don't seem to mind. Fascinating. It is, and nothing is wasted. Use the same gunk for the next levy. Good thing too, I have no idea how to make more gunk. Anyway, that's the machine. Any other questions? Trying to repair a device known as a resonance chamber. Yo, what? I thought that thing was a myth. You're trying to repair it? Is that what he and Salamari were working on? I'd love to see that. In a dome in the reef of fallen worlds. Really? Amazing. You have a piece of the machine with you? Why do you need a piece if you've heard of it before? You know, every little bit of information helps when trying to solve a problem. I'd like to get a peek at the thing if I can, but it won't be much help with this particular device. In all honesty, Focuses on more traditionally powered machines. Southern Mary has some experience with organic machine construction. You might ask her about it. Goodbye. Come back anytime. Alright, let's talk to her. Well, look who's back. I half expected you to be gone for another decade. I'm trying to repair something called a resonance chamber. Ah, that contraption. I'd be delighted to help as it was before. I'll need you to do me that little favor first. Seek existence from the other. Do be careful. I suspect one of them is an informant for the Numenera. Too many of our finds have been pillaged by our thugs. Oh, I see you've already told someone. Well, that was a mistake. Do return once you've opened the lanceret. I'll help you if I can. Who or what is the Numenera? Your age catching up with you, Adan? She's a crime lord. She rules the bloom. Any of this tinkling any bells? I'm going to assume you have other things on your perfectly healthy mind. It spares me from asking questions that would be simply embarrassing for us both. That there's a spy in the Order of Truth. Almost certainly. I let Min worry about that. Spies aren't a problem if you never share your secrets. So we're not going to tell anyone else, but we are going to talk to people. Sup? Snarf. Slouched before you is a figure clad in a dusty, unremarkable robe. Loose folds of rough cloth shift to reveal a vaguely humanoid form with elongated facial features and two elaborate biomechanical arms. You can't help but notice the size, shape, and even number of digits changing as it tinkers with a bizarre-looking device on the table. It glances up at you. Its eyes are the size of your palms. You realize it's a visitant, a being from another world. Greetings, fellow sentient, it says, nodding with studied respect. I will be with you in a moment. Its mechanical fingers contract and dance independently over the surface of the device before it, adjusting and tightening. There, I am Snarf, guest of the Order of Truth. What brings you to my workspace? Didn't quite catch your name. How do you pronounce it again? Ah, you are hearing a brief Elysian in my name, correct? A majority of component syllables are untranslatable or beyond human ranges of hearing. I will attempt to approximate them. Nilagut with a brief poem about the average temperature of just midnight here. Gonthus, the word discovers a color similar to blue, Ramalurf. I prefer the name your people here. My name is all too common where I come from. Tell me about yourself. Your curiosity honors me, it says, inclining itself. It said, I came through the bloom from another world. To be perfectly honest, I was exiled for inadvertent sacrilege and perversion. I would imagine you are curious about my people's reproductive processes at this point. It adds placidly, I would happily describe them. The more detail, the better. Certainly, says beaming. No detail will be spared. It's a rather complicated topic, so let me know when you're ready to speak at length. Let's go with, what's the device you're working on? Minor project of mine, it says with a self-depreciating wave. Something to widen the boundaries of my research. It scans for unknown reproductive processes and displays them for further study. The device clicks to itself. Ah, Nerf says. Watch. Transparent image of two goat-headed humanoids appears over the device. At first, it seems they're wrestling with each other. After a moment, you realize your mistake. Copulating meteor. Fascinating. The visitant begins taking careful angular notes in an unfamiliar language on the scroll beside the device. There's quite a lot of motion involved, isn't there? What sort of notes could you possibly be taking? Simply my first observation of the methods on display. Positioning, the setting, of course, and one of the creatures issues a bleeding streak. And results, the Vizinet's making notes. Those arms of yours are interesting. How do they function? I'm not quite sure. It says, raising them for inspection. Extra digits swirl out of the mechanical palms in a somewhat nauseating wave and disappear just as quickly. They seem to be a sentient of either of us, but obedient as long as I keep them busy. Otherwise, they scramble about while I rest, touching things, picking locks, strangling the odd rodent. I force them to take up knitting. Ready to hear about your people's methods of procreation. Deprived of the layers of sociological complexity, this process is quite simple, the Vision says. At a certain age, my people ceremoniously choose a limb for removal. The limb is grown into a new being. Children, in your terminology. This is where things get a little more complicated. The selected part relegates the child to a caste. Arm children become laborers, leg children become warriors, and head children, due to the sacrifice implied in their creation, become leaders. As Snierf studies its metal hands, as I've suggested, the limbs we surrender do not grow back. In fact, those who replace their limbs insult their children and sin against their people. This is where your biomechanical arms come in, I imagine. You're correct. Unfortunately, I surrendered my arms to create my children. They grew to maturity and joined me in my study of the various void-born Numenera. For a time, we were happy. Then I discovered a melted human figurine. I did no more than glance at its folded arms before it opened its eyes. The last thing I remember. I awoke with the arms you see now. My children, thinking I had disowned them, disowned me. And my people were even less merciful. I'm sorry that happened to you. Your sympathy is appreciated but not warranted. The Vision says, darts avoiding eyes. I have found several other ways to take my mind off the loss of my family and my people since. It was only when I began visiting other worlds that I learned most species do not reproduce by severing their limbs. Snuff says, shaking its head, the discovery fascinated me, and so on I began cataloging the various methods of procreation found throughout the world. It was only when I found my way to Sagan's Cliffs through the bloom that I was offered a place to work, here, in the Order of Truth. And there you have it. Cool. Let's do this once, and I'm not going to do the voice. That is actually really hurting. Oof. Halorales. Though they are brutal creatures, formed from the organic and inorganic substances, they do share certain characteristics with my people. They don't have genders and reproduce by expelling an organic mass deep into the moist, fertile soil. The mass eventually grows into an autonomous being. The effect it has on nearby sentient life forms is truly fascinating. For the survivors, anyway. Will you be here much longer, dear? Daylight is waning after all. I apologize, is the topic making you uncomfortable? Don't be ridiculous. It's simply that I despise lectures without visual aids. And so I can just keep asking about more procreation methods. The thin young man smiles hesitantly as you approach. You notice a small metallic ovoid protruding from his skull, nearly hidden by his disheveled hair. The fingers of his left hand tap nervously on his leg as he speaks. Not a real priest yet, if that's what you're thinking. Usually visitors only talk to me because they think I'm a priest, but I'm still a novice. What's that implant on your forehead? Oh, it's not just On my forehead, he says. Not just the skin. I mean, it's bonded with my skull. It keeps me awake and alert. I don't get tired until it runs out of power. Nope. Remind me again. Oh, I wanted to ask about what powers it. Damn. Well, what? You want to know what I'm working on? Are you sure? Absolutely. I'm designing an intelligence, but not a normal kind. No, I'm just metal or with dependent intelligence rigging systems. No, it's larger than that. Stronger. Lan himself seems to be getting stronger, rising as he speaks. I hadn't noticed it before, but he's actually taller than you. The idea is this: an intelligence that can find, test, identify, and fully understand Numenera. We can unlock the secrets of lost civilizations. His eyes are gleaming now as he raises a trembling fist. Do you understand? If we do this, we can break the chains binding us to the past, turn them into reins with which to steer the future. I can't have your plan is long and rhetoric and short and specific. I don't put notice your plan is long and rhetoric and short and specific. I have a plan, but it'll take more time and money. It's only a theory, though, for now. I don't have the funding, not yet, but I've been studying machines with Min, and when he can spare the time, and he likes my ideas, even if he thinks they're impossible. I think he's disappointed I'm not a real Aeon priest yet. I should have the money by now. I was told they keep paying me, even after the first time. Don't you want to be one? Oh, yes, that would change everything. Only full Aeon priests have access to the Order's funds. I can use them to build a full prototype. Min might protest, but he'll understand once I get the design right. I just need to get it right. That's all. What do you need to do to become an Aeon priest? You have to make a major discovery, a mystery that's remained unsolved for a long time, but I've spent too much time on my own research. I haven't got anywhere yet. Uh-huh. Well, pretty sure he's the spy. So that'll be that. And next time, we'll leave the Order of Truth and go do something else out here in the world. Because, yeah, that'll be interesting. Avoiding that fight was definitely a pretty fun way of getting to the city. Until then, bye.